I had everything timed to perfection this morning, and then just in that last moments before I was due to be here with you, I was like, I've just forgot the time. So, but I'm here on time. Good morning. Last week I spoke to you about my mum, which I love speaking about my mum. And I just got a little bit. I was thinking about it afterwards, and I'm not starting a series or anything, but you may have seen my title to this week is my granny, because I don't know, just the way my brain works, maybe. You know, mum, nan. I'm not going great now, but anyway, point being, actually the thing is, my mum's mum, she died when she was young, so I never knew her. And my dad's mum, she died when I was about 1. So I never knew her either, really. And this is not where I'm going with this, so please bear with me. This is a lot more positive than that. This isn't my violin moment. But, as I say, my granny now, the thing is, I didn't know my nans, but you hear things, don't you? You hear things. Everybody in their families, you must have those family stories that you've heard about, you know, great Aunt Violet, you know, fought the Nazis with a toothpick and that type of thing. But anyway, you hear these stories and then you try and find out if they're true. Well, now, my dad's mum, I heard a story about her quite a few years ago from one of my cousins, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I love the imagery of that story. And over the weekend, that's why I was thinking about this, and over the weekend, I phoned my dad and I thought, you know, I'm going to tell you this story, but I don't want to lie to you. I want to give you an authentic experience, people. So this I've found out is a true story about my granny, my dad's mum. And so what happened was at the start of the Troubles in Northern Ireland, a time of real pain, and people rose up against each other, Catholic, Protestant, nationalist, loyalist, you know, but neighbour versus neighbour, and it was horrible. And in the midst of that, there was a young man in the street where my nan lived, and the mob came for him, a young Catholic man, and my family are Protestants, and anyway, the mob were, you know, probably over accentuating the mob, but he was going to get got, this young lad, and there was a group there that were out to get him, and my nan, aided by my auntie Irene, they both spirited this young fella back through their house so that he could escape. And then what my nan did, she stood in the doorway and she just said, no, you're not coming through. You're not having him. You shall not pass, in terms of Gandalf. But this is the thing. So, I mean, for me, I see that as I'm very proud of her for that, of this very clear stance. So that's not right. You're not having him. This is where I'm going to stand. It's about standing in the gap, even when it's not popular. As I said, it is. It's a Gandalf moment. It reminds me of Aaron the priest in the Old Testament. You know, he's with the Hebrews in the desert, and the plague breaks out because, you know, the Hebrews being their usual annoying themselves in this place. Well, anyway, so Aaron, he goes to a temple, he grabs some incense, and he runs out, and they said he ran out, desperation, people are dying, and he goes and it says, and he stood in the space between the living and the dead. And I think that's so cool. It reminds me as well, it reminds me of the Good Samaritan. Jesus tells this story of a man who is not liked. I've said it loads of times on here. Look back if you can't remember. Jews, Samaritans hated each other. Absolutely couldn't stand each other. And yet in the story of the Good Samaritan, there is A Samaritan who puts his life in danger to help someone, to rescue someone, to save someone's life, even though that person is not the same as them, is an enemy almost. My nan's decision to stand in the gap of a mob of her people to save a life. Difficult, isn't it? Ultimately, the biggest way this is displayed is of Jesus. It's what Jesus did on the cross. Jesus stood against everything that was wrong. He died for everything that was wrong. By his death, he stands in the gap. He says, no, that shame, that guilt, that brokenness, all the rubbish you've built up that we call sin. Jesus, he takes it on. He says, stop there. You cannot progress sin. You can't get anywhere else. Condemnation, shame. No. It says in the Bible, it says in the book of Colossians, he says, when you trust in Jesus, we move from the dominion of darkness to the kingdom of the Son. Move from death to life. And Jesus stands in that gap. He rescues us. That's, Jesus talked about as our Redeemer, our Saviour, all these words. He rescued us. He stood in the gap and said, right, come on. And then for all of that darkness, all of that pain, he stood there and said, you shan't pass. You're done. I'm dealing with you. You're finished. Shame, guilt, sin, you're done. Death. Done it. And all those who come past me, all those who come through me, they step into life. And it's as simple as trusting him. That's exciting. Trust Jesus today. Simple message. We're doing an Alpha course online with our church. So wherever you're watching this, wherever you are in the country, you can sign up to Alpha online with us. Send us an email, office@wearehopechurch.net. Send us a message on Facebook if you can't remember that. You want to know more about our church, you want to follow Jesus, send us a message. Wherever you are, doesn't matter. The most exciting thing about doing all this stuff online. But you know what else? I decided to follow Jesus quite a few years now. I know some other people have here as well. What does that mean to us? What does standing in the gap mean? Well, I said this last week. I said that when I thought about my mum, I was able to realise what love is. Because I've seen it displayed. Well, I can look at my nan standing in that doorway and think, well, I know what standing in the gap looks like. I've seen it displayed. Yes, Jesus ultimately displays it, but it shows me what it looks like, and it calls me forward. By what Jesus done, it calls me to be someone who stands in the gap. And what does that look like? That looks like I might not laugh along with everyone else when they're putting someone down, whoever they are. It means standing up maybe for those who are not being stood up for. It means maybe being unpopular. It means being embarrassed. It means looking with your heart and responding to those places where there is a gap. Responding to those places where you could literally save a life. Jesus saved my life. My nan, she saved a life that day. We can save lives. And you really don't realise what the smallest thing that we do could save a life. Showing love, standing up for someone, responding to someone's need, protesting. We can save lives, and that's exciting. It means we get to be like Jesus. Get to stand in the gap, to rescue people like he rescued the world. Love it. So, 2 simple messages today. Trust Jesus. He's the way. Secondly, look for places to stand in the gap. Be like my granny. We could save a life today, couldn't we? God bless you. See you soon.